Backheel, Ugarkovic. Striding through, Ugarkovic! Stepping through, scoring a great goal. And Newcastle 4-0.
Well, it was a brilliant move. It's the awareness and the run from Ugarkovic in the finish is absolutely first class. Brilliant counter-attack.
Welcome to another edition of the First Phase Football Podcast. Stevie, we are back for another episode.
We are back. It's good. Always a pleasure.
How you been?
Yeah, good. Busy,
Yeah.
busy.
Day today
Yeah,
as well.
crazy.
Busy week. All the rains.
Well, the rain has been very busy in here. Non-stop.
Yeah,
It's good.
Today we have a very special guest, Steven Ugarkovic. How are you?
Good, thanks for having me. Good to be back. It's been probably about a year now nearly since I've been back in, so yeah, it's good, exciting.
Yeah, you spent your off season here. And how'd you find that going into the season?
Yeah, it was good. Got me in a bit of good shape before the season, not just physically but technically as well. Having so long without a touch and then getting that touch back on was good.
Yeah, and how so far you're in season at the moment?
Yeah, we've got about 5 games left, fighting for final spot. Exciting, so it's getting to the crunch end of the season.
Yeah, awesome. So today we're just going to talk about, a lot about you, how you came up through the ranks and the different clubs you played overseas. Now in the A-League, you're in the grand final last year. Then we're going to hit you up with a topic of today, which is pretty much online coaches, Instagram coaches, all different type of coaches that are online doing, all different type of things, and how you find it beneficial looking on, being a pro.
Sounds good.
And then we got some questions as well.
Yeah, so some questions from our story.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, let's start with you. So at what age did you start playing football?
Ooh, it would have been around probably 4.
4?
Started early. Old man was into it. Brother was into it, so I followed in the footsteps. Out at Sydney United, travelling probably 40 minutes each session.
Yeah.
So from a young age, so I got used to it. But yeah, just growing up with a family that was full into it was probably the main reason I got into it so young.
Yeah, because your father played in NSL.
Yeah, father played in the NSL, played a few games, then had an operation in his foot, and other reasons, so that's why he had to stop. But brother was pretty good going up through the Sydney United youth system till he was about 15, 16, and decided to go into other things. But yeah, I kept on going, I guess.
Yeah. So what age did you take it seriously and you're like, I want to be a professional?
I think it was around probably under 10s, so 12s. That's when it kicked in. We started having a good year as a team. I remember going through Champions of Champions and things like that. So that really made me think, maybe I can do this. And then also following in my cousin, Steven Ugarkovic, who was always playing at a high level, and sort of trying to be like him was a bit of a drive, which I reckon, around 12, I really thought I want to try.
This is what you want to do.
Yeah, 100%.
And you went through Sydney United, the whole youth?
Yeah, so I went from Sydney United from 6 to 16s.
Yeah.
And then it's a funny story. I got cut there when I was 16. For the under 18, so around 16, 17. And then sort of restarted thinking doubts in myself. Maybe I'm not good enough, things like this. But I thought, I'm still going to give it a chance. Went to Marconi for a year.
Yeah.
And then obviously couldn't get a gig anywhere in the A-League, which was tough growing up. So I said, I'm going overseas.
Yeah.
And I went over there.
Yeah, and you went to Osijek?
Osijek,
Yeah.
yes. I went over there for a month trial when I was 16. Did well. So I'd come back for when you turn 17, stayed there for about 5 months. Couldn't sign till I was 18 with all the rules back here, FFA and international things, so I had to wait. So I trained till I was 18 there, then I signed and then kicked off from there.
Yeah, and how did you find that? Like, you got cut in, under 18s at MPL really, and you're overseas, you've got a professional contract.
Yeah, it was at the time I remember I was in tears. Playing my old man playing for Sydney United, my brother was 3 generations, and then to be there for 10 years and just someone comes in and decides it's not
They
meant
don't
to
like
be
you.
for no reason. And I remember to this day walking to the car park properly in tears. And I think that was a big driving motivation to keep going, to prove people wrong. That's me personally. I know a lot of players now are a lot different. They get a setback and that's sort of it for them.
They quit,
Yeah, so I think that's a big thing, the motivation, what you get out of it, and what you take to going within 2 years having a professional contract at the age of 18 was pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, not many players get that, especially in Australia. They sit there in the NPL for years and they never get out, or they might get an A-League stint for 6 months and it's cut. So I think the mentality to go and keep
well, I think the
plugging
average
away.
age for an A-League professional is retirement age is 22.
Yeah, well.
Wow.
So you would never think it, but they're the facts.
Jeez.
So
how did you find that going from obviously the NPL system to then into Croatia? We've obviously seen how well Croatia's done at the last World Cup and what they're doing, producing world-class players with the size of the country. What stood out for you as different when you went over there?
I think it was the main focus, which is technical ability. I think that for me, what I said from the start when I first went there, I was driven just to become every day, be doing double sessions, but not running just with the ball. It was all, there's a wall there, go do 100 passes instead of, there's a field, go do 100 laps. I think that was one big difference for me. And because I wasn't going to school over there, I had the luxury of doing the double sessions, because when boys, they either went to school in the morning or at night. So if they went to school in the morning, they would train at night, where I wasn't doing that, so I got the double session in, which I felt helped big time for me, for my mentality as well. Just being on the ball, I think that's the big thing, just football driven, none of this running and all that stuff, especially at those younger ages from 14 through to the 18s. It's just football, which is good. That's what you need.
Yeah, and do you think also the culture there, because it is a football culture?
Yeah, definitely. I think like when you see here what Steve's done with the little futsal court, that's a street court. That's over there. You see that on every corner of the road. In the summer, it's just go on and play. How many times do you see that around here?
Never.
You don't see a court anywhere. For me, that's a big thing. And just like population, there's 5 million, and for them to come second at a World Cup,
phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
And producing the players are producing as well.
And especially producing the players that have been, with only the 4 million people, and the state money-wise that they have is ridiculous compared to here. They're nowhere near it, and for them to produce that just shows where they should be, and what other countries should aspire to.
Yeah. So how did you find it playing over there? Like being that a young age as well?
It was tough. So going over there at 16 was a big change for me. I remember making that decision. I said, listen, I'm not getting any luck here. Obviously I was smaller at the age and things like that, but I said I'm not going to give it up, so I'm going to go. Going there, it was just changing, not as just as a footballer as myself, because I had to grow up. I was there, I didn't know the language. So that for me developed me as a person. Off the field, going through problems, there's a problem over there, you can't call your parents and say, I need help. I was by myself. I was pretty much in the wild for a whole year, not speaking to anyone for 3 months because no one accepted me yet, things like that. So getting over those hurdles, finding your own way, I think developed me and created me as a person, I think.
Yeah. Did they see you as Croatian, or they saw you as an Aussie guy?
No, probably took probably 2 years for them to properly accept me. I was always on the outskirts. I was always person. I was quiet, kept to myself, spoke to when I was spoken to. But there was another thing when I was there. There was a Macedonian guy as well. I think helped me. He was very loud. He was just wanted to be involved in everything, and I was the opposite. And I think that deep down it helped me because they saw him as someone that wants to be involved in it. But I stood to the side and let it happen. And I think that was the thing where they go, maybe he's just a normal kid and stuff like that. But you have to see it from their side. You're a foreigner taking one of their spots. So obviously you're going to cop it. I remember the first month I was copping kicks left, right and centre, but it's how you get up from it, sort of thing. And it's just the way they are. It's a dog-eat-dog world over there.
And that's a story that we hear a lot, and it's, I think, something that catches a lot of the players by surprise here. They think they're going to move into a team environment. It's all friends and things like that, and not realising that. So how did you adapt to that, like, when you were there? Like, knowing that I've come from Australia where everyone's mates within teams and things like that. Now I'm over in a foreign country, don't speak the language, and people don't want me to be here.
Yeah, well, I think that's, for me, I had to realise that early. So I had to, within the first week, I realised that there's no friends in football, especially in a country like that where you're coming in to take, could be their best mate's spot. For example, I'm coming in as a foreigner. Why should I come in? I've got to be that much better than that person to come in and take their spot, sort of thing. And I think that's a big thing over here in Australia. Players think they're just going to go through the systems. You see it from NPL all the way up to the A-League. They go through the academies, they step into the youth team, and once they hit that age, they expect they're going to step into the first team, but it doesn't happen.
Yep.
And I think that's a mentality that we lack a little bit over here, and I think we need to develop that. So the mentality of go out and get it yourself. Don't wait for it to be given. That's what I've been told my whole life. Don't wait for someone to hand it to you. Go out there and take it, I think.
Yeah, and I think that is the mentality of a lot of the players coming through. Like you said, they've always made the top teams. They've made, whether it's A-League academies or whatever, then they get to that next stage, whether it's on the board of the A-League, and they think it's going to be given to them.
Exactly.
And then they wonder when they have to fight for it, they don't know how to fight.
Exactly.
And you see a lot of them pull out of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I remember sitting back the other day. I think it was me and my old man were talking how many players that I played with in under 14s are still playing, and I think I was the only one at a high level. So that sort of shows that. Yeah. Also, I did not make any of those state teams growing up. For example, I did not make one of them. And all those players that did, there's only probably 2 of us that are playing at a professional level, and that goes to show, I think.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you see that a lot. You know, a lot of players grew up, you know, in the spotlight, and you know, top teams, state teams,
young Aussie teams and Swiss teams, all that stuff, and then
they don't know how to deal with
setbacks.
setbacks.
When it gets to the crunch, how do you accept that setback sort of thing? Do you go into your shell? Do you step out? And that's it.
Yeah, or they develop that arrogance where they think they're better than everyone else, and then you get someone like you who's prepared to work a lot harder than other players who will ultimately prevail.
Yeah, it's also about knowing your strengths. If your strength is working hard, then stick to it, sort of thing. That's me been my whole career, just so far, just working hard. I know I'm a hard worker. I know I can do it. So whether that means running 12, 13 Ks a game to keep my spot, I'll do it, because I know that's my strength. But then it's also working on the other things. Like, I know personally my shooting's not my best, and that's why I come in here to fix it, sort of thing, work on that. And it's noticing those bad things of your game or negative things that you have to work on, accepting it, and taking criticism to benefit yourself, because there's criticism and it's how you take it as well. If you're getting told off from your coach, he's criticising you, he's trying to help you, it's how you take it, whether, like I said, you go into your shell, or do you take it on board, accept it, or do you just blame others all the time as well? It's a big one.
Yep, massively.
Yeah, do you ever just, because I think a lot of players go, oh, well, this coach doesn't know what he's talking about, you know, I'm not going to listen to him or whatever, he's biased towards me, hates me or whatever. How do you prevail in those kind of situations? Do you just go, no, he's the coach, I'm just going to listen to what he says and do what he tells me?
There's a bit of a mixture, I feel, between that. First, like mostly, he's your coach. He's got the final say. You got to give him all your respect. You might not agree with it, but at the end of the day, he's the coach. If he tells you to do something, you do it. You may not agree with it, and then there's times you may have to go speak to your coach. For example, you say, I don't like the way this is happening. Can we fix it? Every coach responds to, if you go and speak to him one-on-one, he's going to respond. As if you go behind his back, start talking to other people, and that gets back to him, obviously that's going to hurt you more than going up to him like a man and speaking to him, sort of thing. So I think that's a thing as well we see in modern football. Having the guts to go speak to your coach. I've been in situations where overseas I couldn't speak the language, and I didn't want to go speak to the coach, but I knew I had to do it to find out, for example, where I stand, how can I improve and things like that. So I think being able to go speak to your coach as a man and accept what he's saying, and not just blame other people. Yeah, there might be times where it's blatant and he doesn't see it, but you've got to accept that. And like I said, if you have to go speak to him, if not, just accept it, because at the end of the day, he's the coach and that's his job.
Yeah. So you spent, was it 3 years in Croatia? 4 years, sorry. Yeah. So how did you find playing there then? What made you kind of come back? So, you know, from that environment, first division, you know, teams that can qualify for Europe, essentially, playing against big teams like Dinamo Zagreb and, you know,
well, first year when I was there, we were fighting relegation, and that's probably the best year I've had as a footballer as development comes. It was my first year in the first team, and going through that, it's crazy. It's a bumpy roller coaster ride. You go from winning a game to celebrating and to losing a game. You're bottom of the table, and I remember the last 7 games we were dead last, and then we ended up staying up, and it was like we won the league.
Wow.
And for me that was big, but outside of that I wasn't getting paid. I went 8 months without getting paid.
Wow.
And for me, living out of home, just turned 18, it's tough. And then so I went 2.5 years, and then that third year, I didn't get paid for a whole year, and I said, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Being away from a family, it got, I wouldn't say too hard, but financially I couldn't support myself anymore, and I didn't want to put that burden on my parents. I said I think it was time to come back for a new challenge. I thought as much as I could at that club, and did what I could. And when I was still there, I was still struggling for money and things like that. But then 2 weeks after I left, they got bought. And now they're sitting third. They're playing Europa League games, qualifiers, but that's football, I guess.
Yeah.
You go with you see opportunity, you take it, and you don't look back. For me, I haven't looked back. Like I said, I would not change one thing I did over there, the way I did it, because I think that developed me. But yeah, like I said, the money, at the end of the day, it came down to being away from family for so long, and yeah, financially, I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So how'd you find that playing in, as you said, in those relegation battles and fighting for survival of a whole club and the fans and the community, to you compare that to the A-League, then you get to the end of the season where games have no significance when there's no relegation. Was that a massive difference that you noticed over there?
That was huge. We weren't getting paid, but the desire to win was still up there. Even in training, you would see tackles flying in, just because you want to win. You want to do everything you can to win, because that's your life. If you get relegated, that looks poorly on your resume, sort of thing.
Yep.
And you feel like you've let down the club, and because it was such a small city, you felt like you let down the city. And like I said, that hunger at training, like you were talking twice a week, there's punch-ups at training, because not just just like the tempers were high because it was so tense. Because we knew if we were getting relegated, we didn't know what our futures held, because anything could have happened over there. But yeah, the competitive side of things here in Australia, like I felt last year, that was the most exciting year I've had as a footballer, being in the grand final, competitiveness wise, being second, and things like that. It was amazing. But then when you sit into the middle or the bottom of the table, it's sort of the competitive side of it, because you know there's no relegation. You sort of, like over there, you knew you were going to get relegated if you were sitting down the bottom, so it was just that extra hunger. Whereas I feel if that comes into Australia, it can only be beneficial for the game. If they introduce a relegation system and things like that, I think that can be.
Do you think that develops a different mindset in the players as well, to know that every single game there's something to play for, and it's just that mentality and that hunger, just every single game and every single session?
It's pretty much playing for your future. You get relegated, you're playing down to second division. Who knows what can happen with your contracts professionally? You're losing money as well. That's the thing overseas. You were getting relegated, your contract gets ripped up nearly. So I think that side of things will benefit the game 100%. So I think that's a side of things that needs to maybe develop here in Australia. Whether the way they do it, with the salary cap and all that, that's up to the people in charge, and they have to go from there.
Yeah. Just on the where you're saying you weren't getting paid playing over there, but you're still playing. You know, you see a lot of NPL players, for instance. You know, they're getting not offers, but they're getting opportunities to go overseas. And you know, there's like €1,000 a month plus accommodation, and they're playing NPL, getting $1,000 a week. You know, but they're like, oh no, you know, I don't want to go play in whatever league because I'm not getting paid. And they're like only 20 still, and their mentality where, you know, money's already coming first, opposed to an opportunity to go to Europe and, you know, potentially, you know, you're playing second division Belgium or wherever that you can jump somewhere else. You know, you went and played for no money. What do you think of like the mentality of these players? Like, how would they stack up against the players that are in Europe that are?
Well, I think me and Steve spoke about it before. I think it's desire over money. I think that's the equation sort of thing. You've got to weigh it all up. Do you desire to play at a level where you're getting 15,000 fans cheering for you, or you're getting 150 fans and you're getting good money? So I think it comes down personally to the player, what they want out of their career. I know some players play just because maybe they don't love the game, but they're good at it, so they see it as a sport. For example, Asfil Koto, from Tottenham back in the day, he hated football. He couldn't stand football, but he was good at it, so he did it. So he's playing at a big club, so it's different. So here in Australia, I think you've got to weigh it up. What do you want personally out of your career? And then you chase that dream, I think, sort of thing. And I think that being in a country so, I would say, financially stable, I think that's the difference overseas, where some countries, they're not. Like in those smaller countries.
They're supporting their families.
Exactly. They're living from paycheck to paycheck, sort of thing. So they go out and they have that extra hunger sort of thing. Whereas here, with the Australian passport, being in Asia, you can go to a country where you can get that sort of money, set yourself up, and then you're happy. So I guess personally, it's down to that individual, what they want, desire, and they have to go from there. But I think that could affect the mentality of younger players growing up.
Yeah, because I think now we're kind of breeding that culture where they're looking for safety.
Easy dollar.
Easy dollar. I'll have a future because I can play NPL and get a full-time job.
Yeah.
And that's kind of potentially what's setting Australia back.
100%.
Professional level.
Like, what's the incentive of those NPL players when some of them are getting paid more than the A-League players?
Exactly. Why would they come to the A-League?
Exactly.
They're getting good money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you said they get offered a youth pro deal at $35,000 a year, and the NPL club's paying them $1,500 a week.
Exactly. And you've got another job on the side.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's
that professional lifestyle as well. Do you want to live it? Do you enjoy living this lifestyle, working, or do you want to try that football lifestyle? Some of them try it for a year and they end up going back. So yeah, like I said, I guess it's on them.
Yeah. So then you came back. So obviously, were you approached by an A-League club to draw you back, or you kind of just put it out that you want to come back?
Nah. So when I was overseas, so the last year I was there, I went out on loan to a second division club just to get some game time for 6 months, and there was interest from Newcastle then, but nothing came of it. And then once I came back, there was a fair bit of interest from few clubs in Australia because I was in the Asian Cup squad.
Yeah.
And because I came off contract, I was a free agent, so obviously it's
more appealing.
Yeah, exactly, for clubs. So there was a bit of interest, but I found the challenge in going to Newcastle, not going to a, let's say, top 3 team. Go there, get game time, develop myself more, and at the time Scott Miller was a coach, and I felt he gave me a lot of freedom as well to play and develop as a footballer. But I was only 21 at the time. He gave me a bit of a leadership role, which I thought was good and helped me. So I felt he was the most appealing as a coach, and how I could develop, and the challenge was exciting coming back to Newcastle.
Yeah, and you joined them when they weren't. This is the season before they made the grand final.
Yeah,
so they were struggling.
So I came the halfway through the season of that. So I came in January, played out that half a year, one more year, and then that next year we made the grand final.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a challenge.
So how was last year? Because that was like a magical year.
Oh, that was unbelievable. Going so close, like I still say to this day, it was best and worst day of my life.
Yeah.
That whole week leading up to the grand final was unbelievable. The whole city, because so small, just going out, like usually no one says hello to you, but you go to Woolies, I go get my groceries, and people coming up to you saying good luck. It's just, it's unbelievable. And yeah, it was a bit done like that in the finals. Still hurts. It's touchy subject.
So how you been going this season?
Yeah, it's been a challenge this year, I think, as a team, because teams are playing differently against us. They sort of sit back a little bit more, I think, or we feel. Whether that's a tactical thing or just it just happens, because now it was just about us finding out how we can. Because last year was a bit, it's Newcastle, what can happen? And we were just exposing teams, just playing good counter-attacking football and things like that. So this year teams are a bit more aware, and the challenge has been scoring goals, I think. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster year, but 5 games left, so 5 points out. So see what we can do.
So you still have a chance to make the finals.
Yeah, but the thing is, in the A-League, you make finals, you can knock off the top 10.
Yeah.
It's just the best team on the day, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, so if we get into that top 6, anything can happen, I reckon.
So would you say last year it was almost that you just flew under the radar to a degree, that
100%.
they didn't treat you with the respect that you're so much getting now? So you've been able to go through, and then obviously this year they're like, hang on a minute, we're not going to let that happen again, and that's
100%.
where
You see
it becomes
against
different.
Teams where last year they would come out firing and we would put 3 past them in the first half.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
just
And then
they
what
wouldn't
happened?
expect it,
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
thing. Whereas this year they're a bit more wary of us and things like that. So last year was, I feel, a big story of the underdogs, going from last to second.
Yeah.
So I think that was massive for the club and the whole region in Newcastle.
Yeah, and I think of a lot of the neutral fans, so whoever you weren't playing against, I think we all jumped on the new Newcastle bandwagon. I know we were, hoping that you would do
Yeah,
well
I think
and knock
everyone
them over.
just enjoyed the way we played as well. So
Yep.
57 goals or something like that. Like
It's
it
crazy.
was exciting
Yeah.
to watch. And things like that. So I think it was good for the league, and for a team to be coming last to then come second was pretty exciting for the whole league.
Yeah.
And like you look this year, Wellington have done a similar thing, sitting in fourth place.
Yeah.
So it's credit to them and their coach. Like it's exciting when you see a team like that
100%.
come from the ashes and just go.
Yeah. So you scored against your cousin last year. What was
Yeah.
that like?
I've got a good photo of
Yeah.
it. It was probably one of the highlights of my career. Playing against Wanderers, obviously your team.
Yeah.
But yeah, being from Sydney as well, I remember trying to get into that program and not getting into it as well when I was just before I went. And yeah, putting one past them was it was great. 4-0 at home, being so high up the table as well. I think that game we really kicked off after that. And I think that was, scoring against Stevie was good.
Did he say anything to you afterwards?
Nah, he was happy for me, but I could tell his little cousin's taking over. So it's always good play. It was always good playing against him. We'd get at each other's ankles and things like that. So he's we're always happy to see each other do well. And to put one past him. I remember he was the one on the goal line as well. He was pretty close. He might have even pulled his foot back, let it go. He's good.
Yeah.
I suppose going from that is, how do you see your career kind of, what's your plan for your career? Do you want to stay in the A-League and continue playing, or?
Football's a funny thing. So like being in Europe, having that feel of being there, it drives you to get back there, sort of thing. For me personally, so whether that comes up, like I say as a footballer, you sell yourself. So you score 10 goals a year as a midfielder, you're going to get sold. So I think putting game by game and season by season, just focusing on that next game to get better. I think that's the only way to sell yourself to where you want to be. For example, I'd love to go back to Europe and test myself over there in a nice strong league and live that lifestyle again. But like I said, you've just got to focus on the moment. I've still contracted for another 2 seasons after this one in the A-League with Newcastle. So if something comes up to challenge myself in a better league, I'm open to it. And like I said, it also comes down to the club as well, whether they're willing to let you go and things like that. So I think, I'd love to see myself playing in Europe. For me, if I ever play a Champions League game, I said I could happily retire. That for me is a dream, still is. Still only 24, so representing my country at under 23s. But for me, to play one Champions League game, I said I could happily retire.
Yeah.
Speaking of Champions League, so obviously Newcastle in the Champions League this year. We spoke about it just before. Tell us how that was. Obviously a different experience for you in your career.
Yeah, like even the first game against the Indonesian team, it's a different brand of football. Small, fast, nippy, sit back when they don't have it. Like it's completely different.
Yeah.
And then to win that 3-1 in extra time, we went over to Kashima Antlers, and they obviously won the Asian Champions League just I think in December, and we were playing them in February. So it was a big task. Going there, the whole lead up was amazing. The stadium huge, and then stepping on the field, going 1-0 down. I thought, it's not good. Here we go. It's 10 minutes in, and then we grab one back, and we're like, we've got a chance here. We sat back, played a different style, but once they technically started getting clicking, and there's some plays in there. There's one winger, 19 years old, played for the Japanese national team already, and he was a difference. He was just unbelievable. It was just chasing shadows a little bit. It's sad to say, but we were we just weren't up to it. And the funny thing is, they were in pre-season, and we were half a season in, and they were they were unbelievable. But I think they were up for the task. Different story if we played in Australia, I think, coming out here in the heat and the travel and things like that. So I think that would have been different. But they had the few players that changed the game, but to play in that was unbelievable.
So how do you prepare for those kind of games so much? How much information did you have against those teams compared to how you prepare for an A-League game and things like that the week leading up?
We had a fair bit because they were still playing in the Champions League towards the end, so we had a fair bit of video footage and things like that. But I think when it comes down to the Asian Champions League, I think a lot of it comes down to the individual bits of players, what they can do to win a game. Our structure was fine. We were good, but we got outdone by a winger coming in and putting in that perfect cross
and
things like that. So I think it came down to the individual little spark where those players are worth X amount of money, and that's why you can see
game changers.
Exactly, they know how to change the game in which scenario they can take that risk and things like that. So I think structural wise we were fine. It's just that little bit of spark that was missing.
Yeah, and are you still is your goal to play in the national team still?
Yeah, definitely. I'm 24 years old. World Cup in 4 years. That's obviously, if any footballer says it's not in the back of their mind, I think they're lying. It's a dream for anyone, and I think you play well enough anywhere, you're going to get noticed, especially just anywhere in the A-League. You have like you saw it, you see anyone, Aaron Moy sold himself at, how old was he, 26? Now he's worth 22 million off the back of 2 good seasons, and now he's wanted by a few Premier League clubs, and that shows just 2 good years and you can be anywhere. So like I said, I think anyone that says that's not in the back of their mind, I think it's telling a bit of a lie.
Yeah, and we've seen that with the national team lately, the last couple of years in the A-League, where it probably wasn't happening before. You have a standout year in the A-League, all of a sudden you're in the framework for the Socceroos.
100% agree. You see who else? Chris Economides has done it this year. He had a good start of the year and he was a standout in the Asian Cup. So that's good to see as well. So it gives you a lot of hope, because there's a lot of good players out there in the A-League and maybe they don't get credit for it. So I think having that one good year it's a good stepping stone. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So one of the topics we actually wanted to get your opinion on was, right now there's a lot of social media stuff happening, especially Instagram. There's a lot of Instagram coaches, where they're throwing tennis ball, jumping over cones and stuff like that. What's your take on that? Because, a lot of young players are watching that, where it's on YouTube or whatever, and they want to go out to the park and practice those things, or come in here and practice those things. What's your thought on that kind of training process?
I'm not really for it. I feel if you have the experience of doing it and promoting it, and you've tested it with players and things like that, I think that's big, where you've got the results. But I feel if you haven't studied the game and things like that for a certain amount of time, or you haven't been involved with football, it's hard to teach something, sort of thing. But I've noticed whenever time I come in here, Steve picks up little things that other coaches might not pick up, because he's in here every day watching repetition, and I think not being in that environment 24/7, how much can you possibly know, sort of thing. So I think social media is a big drive in the whole world today. You see footballers even now, after a game, they're straight on the internet saying what people are saying about them, instead of reviewing your own game, sort of thing. So I think, I think you have to have that where you've done it for a certain amount of time to be able to promote it, sort of thing. So you can't just jump onto something because you've seen it on the internet. For example, you can't go saying juggling a tennis ball is going to help you dribble. I don't understand that. That's hard to teach. It's a completely different skill.
So would juggling a tennis ball help you on the pitch in A-League?
You're not going to play with a tennis ball. That's. I don't. Sometimes I think it might work, but.
When was the last time you juggled a tennis ball at training?
Exactly. So I think you got to do those football-related skills first before you do anything.
So on after the games, do you read the comments? This is one we speak to with all of the boys behind the scenes. Do you read comments?
I try to stay off it. Especially if I had a bad game. Different story if you scored a hat-trick. You want to read it all, but sometimes it's hard to avoid, because it comes out. You see little comments and things like that, but especially on Facebook and things, I stay off that stuff because it makes you rethink things. You know what you've given and things like that, what you've done on the field, and other people don't see that. They don't see things behind the field. You might be struggling with something off the field. Fans don't see that. People don't see that off the field, and they just make their judgment on what they see. So I think personally, you got to try to stay off it. It's good to read things when you're doing well, but I feel you've got to read sometimes the bad things for a bit of a reality check, because it might be true. So you can't always just read the good stuff without the bad stuff, because then players start to get big heads and things like that. And then I think you've got to have that balance. But if you're going to do it, you've got to have that balance. But I try to stay off it because
Because it's interesting to talk to the boys, and some do read it, some stay away from it totally.
Yeah.
Some like the negative comments.
Exactly. Some people react to it differently. Like,
Yeah, and it buries some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people it just destroys completely.
Yeah.
So I think if you're not mentally strong enough to take it, don't read it.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty simple.
And it seems like the other players that read it, the ones that can't take it.
Yeah. Some people just looking for that bit of exposure or can, I don't know, I personally don't see what you can get out of it if you start reacting to these things and put you in a bad light sort of thing.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, what some guy that, barely played football his whole
Exactly.
life is just a fan going to really teach you? It's not constructive feedback
What
they're
can you
giving
get
you.
from it sort of thing?
That, they're calling you crap or rubbish or
Yeah.
something like that. So it's not really
Exactly.
beneficial to you.
Exactly. That's what I think. Like, probably never kicked the ball in his life, and he's going to tell you that you're shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not fair, is it?
It's not.
But every fan has their right. They've got.
Yeah, well, they
opinions,
definitely have, yeah.
But yeah, you've got to know that line sometimes.
But yeah, you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like it's your coach telling
Yeah,
you.
at the end of the day, footballers are entertainers, so you've got to be ready for that.
Grow a
If
thick
you're not ready
skin.
for it, stay away from it.
So we got some questions.
We do. So there's a few questions for you, Stevie. So where do we go? What would you say is your biggest obstacle you had to overcome to get to playing pro?
For me, it was a confidence thing, mental. I struggled a little bit overseas, mentally, believing in myself. I knew I had it all, but so the technical side of things and things like that. But it got to a stage where I thought I didn't belong, and I wanted to come back. And I said, nah, I'm going to stick this out. I know I'm good enough, and just even to this day, I've just got to remind myself I'm at this level. I've got a contract for a reason. So that confidence in myself was a big thing growing up. I struggled with that growing up, and then every now and then I still struggle with it, but it's about staying on top. What can you do to fix it?
How do you overcome a major setback or from a big loss in a final?
For me, it still hurts, but I tried to turn that into motivation to say I don't want to feel that again, sort of thing, because that was heartbreaking. So for the grand final, I was in tears after the game, but now I want to use that to say I don't want to be in that position again, sort of thing.
Yeah. So you spoke about how you got into football, obviously the family-wise, but what sacrifices, obviously apart from being overseas, what else would you say are sacrifices that you had to make to be where you are now?
Oh, that's huge. Being away from family. Growing up, you'd go out to house parties and things like that. I never did any of that. Not going out drinking, training. Just those little things, not hanging out with mates because you want to train or you had to train. At the time it was tough and I wanted to sometimes go do something else, but my old man pushed me to do it and I accepted it, and I think they're those little things, and also holidays as well. Like people go away for a few weeks, whereas we can't. Training on Christmas, training on Easter, things like that.
Playing New Year's Day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Things where you can't go out and, for example, go to a festival. You can't do that sometimes as a footballer, and they're the things you got to deal with. You got to weigh it up and just deal with it, I think.
Fave spot in Newey?
Cafe wise or anything?
Spot, I suppose.
There's a cafe, Three Monkeys. It was pretty good. Good food, good coffee. And probably just Merriweather Beach is pretty good.
Yeah.
Just go out, have a look.
What advice would you give to a teenage footballer?
Just like anything I've said on the show, just that self-confidence for me was a big one. If you believe in yourself and you know you can do it and you can deal with those setbacks, you can do anything, sort of thing. And just focusing on that mental side of the game for me is a big one.
What made you want to start training here in the factory?
Saw a few videos of my cousin doing it and seeing what it's based around, and then speaking to Stevie and just having high praises. I thought I'm going to go check it out. And then coming here, and it was the setups tops, like even that street court. Like came here with a few mates, and even they just play for like amateur around Sydney, whatever. And they wanted to come back the next week. Like they just loved it. Just the whole football driven, sort of like a little community sort of thing. So that was for me big, and just coming in here, like come in here, just kick a ball around, but also you're getting heaps out of it.
We enjoy having you in. If it's not Newcastle, who's going to win the A-League?
This season, I think Perth are looking strong. 9 points ahead, and playing against them, like the first game. We were down 2-0 within 15 minutes, but we had that much possession we played, but they were just structurally so set. So I think Perth are looking strong this year.
Would you say they're set up similar to what the Wanderers used to be set up?
I only played 1 or 2 games against them. And it was the one game when Popper was there, but I think he's gone completely different formation-wise. But physical-wise, I think the physical state of players, I think he's gone exactly the same. He's got all of them into shape, I think. Even Castro's back in the day, defending-wise, he wasn't doing much, but now you see him tracking players all the way back. Like,
where'd you come from?
Exactly. You look back and he's chasing you.
Yeah, cool. So, because you're a football fan, so you're not just a passenger kind of player. Because you spoke about before, some pros don't even watch football.
Yeah.
So who's your team? Who's your favourite team?
I'm an Arsenal fan.
Oh, there you go. Good lad. Good lad.
I'm a big
These
Arsenal
are both
fan.
tragics.
I know, but you know what? You stick with it. And when we were in Spain, I grabbed this jersey. I'm a bit of a jersey collector as well, so I like having my jerseys and things like that. I'm just completely football driven.
Yeah.
So you watch football as well in your downtime?
Love it.
Yeah.
Whether that's EPL or like watching the Italian league lately. For me, the Bundesliga is pretty good as well. I love watching that league.
Yeah. Do you watch much of the A-League?
Yeah, usually watch nearly every game. If I'm at home not doing anything, I'll sit there and watch it, have dinner. And especially on weekends when we play on the Saturday or Sunday, you got the night before to watch it. And I enjoy watching it, because obviously playing with players you like, watching to see how they're going and things like that. So it's good to see. Yeah.
Would you say that you watch it as a player, or say as a fan, like you'd watch a normal game? So you're watching to see what this player's doing and that.
Bit of both. I've got good mates around, so every time they're doing well, I'm happy to see them do well. Again, it doesn't matter who it is. You're happy to see them do well. But then, if you know you're versing that team next week, you sit down and you analyse.
Take a little bit more notice.
Exactly. What you can do to be good against them.
Do you find a lot of players do that or not?
Not enough, I think.
Yeah.
Everyone's different, but I think that a lot of teams analyse through the week, and I think that's good here in the Australian setup. A lot of video analysis on teams and things like that. So I think you will get that regardless throughout the week.
Yeah.
Whether you want to go that next step and do it yourself, that's completely up to you.
Yeah. So who's your favourite player? Ever?
Thierry Henry.
Yeah.
For me,
You're well together.
Yeah.
For me,
He's a legend, man.
yeah,
He's
for
the goat,
me,
man.
he's why I went for Arsenal back.
So I should have bought all the Henry shirts today and stuck them in the back.
Yeah, he's got to be my favourite. But now it's got to be Luka Modric, being Croatian. Things like that, how influential he can be as a midfielder to win the Ballon d'Or. And when you look at his stats, only a few assists and a few goals, but for him to win that just shows how influential he is as a midfielder. Yeah,
the engine on him.
Exactly.
Who's your favourite A-League player?
There's a few players I like watching, like Castro. I like watching just to see how silky he is, and things like that. And Ninkovic at his peak, he's good to watch. Those silky players, they're exciting to watch.
Do you ever watch the NSL growing up?
NSL, yeah. I used to go back in the day. I used to go to all the games.
City United?
Used to sit behind the fence.
Yeah.
Used to run away from old men and sit with my mates when I could. But I used to love watching it growing up. And like back in the day, Perth Glory and things like when they used to come out, Parramatta Power. I remember the last ever NSL Grand Final I was there. It was exciting. So, yeah, being in that background, just watching it, I used to love it. Still do.
That was a grand final at Para, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I was there as well.
I think Milicic scored the winner, if I'm not corrected. Possibly, I think he did for Parramatta.
Yeah.
For Milicic.
So did you go back to watching City United when you finish up?
Yeah, like off season when I'm here, I go and watch a few games because obviously a few players I know play like at a few clubs, so it's good to go up and see them and catch up with them and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll float around in the off season, have a look.
Yeah,
it's good to see.
Awesome. Anything else there?
No.
I think that'll wrap it up, man.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks for coming in. Good to see you.
I'll be
see you in a
the
couple of weeks.
For a few sessions in the off season. I'll be.
We'll get you on again in the off season.
Yeah, for sure.
And give us some dirt.
Talking about a little futsal comp as well. If we
yeah. Anyone wants a game? It's in the works.
Yeah, we're in.
You can play Steve Ugarkovic. Maybe we'll make it the prize of the next comp. Play Steve's team.
I'll make a team, Steve.
Make a Steve.
That's it. We were talking about the other day, a couple of boys together, and we'll have a little team floating around.
Winner takes all.
That's it. 100%.
The Stevie wants to drop some money on it. I think we're just saying $1,000 winner takes it.
That's it. Why not?
Awesome, guys. Until next week, take it easy.
Thank you. So close.
Bye.